All right, now to help us understand the potential effect of the culling of poultry products and the avian flu outbreak on labour, we're now joined by Vuka Tonko, the Deputy General Secretary of the Food and Allied Workers Union. Mr. Tonko, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Now, this has been described as the biggest outbreak of avian or bird flu in South Africa. You know, as the Food and Allied Workers Union, how concerned are you? Mr. Tonko, can you please unmute?
Sorry.
No problem.
Good afternoon, and good afternoon to the viewers. Yes, we are concerned as far that this causes a devastating effect in the poultry sector, as it were. But at the same time, we think that there should have been some contingency plans from the industries, particularly the big players, because it's not the first time. It's only the magnitude that you can argue along, but otherwise it has been coming, though also in various forms. To embark into some of those projects that are designed to close the gap between the two. But also would like the government to be involved in the process of assisting the small farmers or the emerging farmers, as it were, because those are the ones who, under these circumstances, would find it difficult and will be obligated at times to even close their farms. So it is indeed a huge effect in the industry.
And to your point, I mean, you know, it was first detected in the Western Cape in April already. There are now calls that government must consider suspending anti-dumping duties on imported poultry. What is your response on that? And I mean, how far will this help in preserving much needed jobs in South Africa?
Firstly, let's separate the loss of jobs and the initiatives that must be followed by businesses in the event they are finding themselves in a similar situation. You know, retrenching workers is the last alternative that you can follow if you are unable to keep your business for it to be in a sound financial position. So in a way, you are expected to find other alternatives, and those are from the legislative framework. So we hope that this will be understood along those lines. But with regard to the from an international point of view, to say there should be no longer what did you call it? The anti-dumping duties, sorry, yeah. No, we don't agree cutting anti-dumping duties. No, we don't agree with that, because anti-dumping duties were designed to protect the local supply of poultry. That's one. Two, we also wanted to grow the sector, as it were. So if we find ourselves in these circumstances, in fact, we should be enjoying from that perspective to say, we're not going to have other countries importing or exporting to this country influx of chickens, thereby constituting what we call chicken dumping. So it is there to protect an unfair trade, as it were. But in terms of the business whose interest is to import on the basis of them culling a list of or millions of birds, what we say is that we don't dispute importing. However, you must import chickens that are equal to the number of those birds that you lost. That's the first point. The second point is that you must also consider the fact that the poor communities are surviving through poultry. So you must make sure that when you have imported those chickens, you don't have to inflate prices to a certain extent that poor communities will not have access to poultry. So that is our position with regard to the anti-dumping duties. We are disagreeing with that vehemently so.
And just going back to that point that you made, that this should have been detected much earlier on. Earlier this year, South Africa experienced a shortage of strategic vaccines, caused by the ongoing challenges at the state-owned animal vaccine manufacturing company. How crucial is it that we find a vaccine for the current outbreak as soon as possible?
Well, it is as urgent as yesterday. In fact, Western Cape as a sector, or the companies that are in Western Cape, they have approached FAO that we should at least be supporting fast-tracking the process of vaccine, and we have agreed with that. We think that it's one of the projects that will assist the sector for it to be protected as a result of this outbreak. So we do support, and we hope that the government listening will fast-track the process.
And just as a final point, I know that the discussion of this affecting jobs is not something that you want to entertain at this very moment. But just looking at the current situation where already suppliers are saying that there is a shortage, and already we are hearing that of high prices in as far as chickens and eggs are concerned. What is the reality on the ground, though? Are you engaging, just some of these stakeholders to ensure that this doesn't happen?
We haven't started discussion to that extent. We think that it's on the basis that, remember, they have to quantify the loss. They have to also assess on their side as employers as to whether will they be able to sustain themselves, looking at the conditions under which they find themselves into. I'm talking about a time frame here, because this is not a permanent problem. You can only talk of the magnitude, but it's not a permanent problem. So as a result, we haven't yet been approached to that extent. But in the event we are, the legislation obligates that there should be other alternatives found that are designed as cost-saving measures before you even have to forgo the employment contracts that are there and dismiss workers. So that's one part. And the second part is that, remember, this obligation on the part of employers is such that the moment you approach trade unions or workers and say you are faced with this situation and you want to retrench them, you are again obligated to have followed those alternatives wherein you can be able to present and say, under these circumstances, there is no other alternatives, and we should have been involved at that time. So I think this is because it's just been a week or so. It's too early to determine whether it will reach a level or a stage where workers should be dismissed. But otherwise, we still believe that we can pull ourselves out of this problem without losing a single job.
Mr. Tonko, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Vuka Tonko is the Deputy General Secretary of the Food and Allied Workers Union.